Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Selling Greenville, your favorite real estate podcast here in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm your host as always, Stan McCune, realtor right here in Greenville, and you can find all of my contact information in the show notes if you need to reach out to me for any of your real estate needs. And please, if you like this show, if you love the show, please subscribe to it. Whatever you're watching or listening to it on, we're on YouTube, on pretty much all the major podcast platforms. Please subscribe to the show. Please leave a rating, leave a review, whatever you can on whatever platform you're using. I would appreciate all of those different things. Today, we're going to have a lighthearted show. Last week was a little bit of a heavier one for me. And I do, if you've been a long-time listener, like a 2-year listener, you know that I do a lot of different things with this show, and sometimes it's as simple as just sharing crazy stories. And I feel like, because I've had a bevy of them lately, I feel like it's time to share a few of the crazy real estate stories that I've had the past couple of years. I think that, to me, they're just interesting and they're fun to tell. And sometimes we just need to hear some of the crazy things that are happening. And so I'm going to just jump in to, I don't think it's gonna be a super long episode, but just 5 crazy real estate stories that have happened to me lately. And I've named every one of these homes or places that I went to, gave them all little pet names. So I hope you guys will enjoy this. And then next week we'll have a more Greenville and or real estate centric story. But to start off, I want to talk about the doghouse. Okay. The doghouse. So there was a property that I helped an out of town investor purchase that, after they purchased it, they had to evict, some people out of it that were not paying anything, that were basically squatting in the house. They had to go through an eviction. And they asked me, hey, Stan, we don't have anyone that can get over there anytime soon. Can you go over there to just check out to see if everyone has actually left the house? And so, of course, I agreed to do that. These are the types of things that realtors do that we don't get paid for, but that's a part of the job. And I enjoy being able to help people out with these types of things. And so I went over there, and this is South Carolina, and in South Carolina, they encourage realtors to carry a gun. And so most of the time I do. And so I went into the house, did not find anything that was immediately concerning. Seemed like everyone was out. Most of the contents were out. And so I was walking around. There were several different structures on the property, and I come to an open shed, and it was like, okay, this is a shed that I think, I want to make sure that there is nothing in here that could be problematic for this client. But I could just sense something. And so I pulled up my firearm that I was carrying and just slowly opened the door to the shed. And I just see eyes flashing at me, and I hear growling. And there is a massive dog in this shed. And I don't know if it was protecting a litter or what it might have been. But needless to say, I thought that dog was going to come after me. And this is the only time that I thought I might have to use my firearm. The only time in my career that I felt like, okay, I might need to actually discharge a round here. But I backed up slowly, tried to be as unassuming and as unintimidating as possible to this crazed dog. And I was able to back out of the doghouse shed and was able to get to my truck and get out of there in one piece. thankfully, like I said, that was the only time I felt really, really threatened. And I'm grateful because there are other people that have actually been threatened, other realtors that have been threatened by real humans and whatnot. That's the worst that I've ever experienced. But the grossest thing that I've ever experienced was the next one, which is I can't take credit for this name. It's actually the people that bought this property from me take credit for the name, but it's the Roach Motel. And this is the property that I actually purchased, and I did not know that there was a roach infestation when I purchased the property. And actually had people living inside the property when I bought it. It was a duplex, and you know, it was in really bad shape. Most of the time in Greenville, when people are selling duplexes or triplexes or properties like that, they're either selling for absolute top of the market or there's something really, really wrong with the property. Maybe in some cases a combination of the two of them. In this case, the property was a complete disaster. It was really not inhabitable, but sadly there were people living there, and so again, I had my property manager assist them with getting them out and relocating them. And then I had to, you know, do the standard procedure of changing out the locks and doing all that kind of stuff. Well, my locksmith called me up, and when he was going over there to change out the locks, and he was just like, "You have a major roach problem on your hands." Now, I had been inside this property and hadn't seen any roaches, but it was like, okay, I'll go check it out. Just finish what you're doing, and you know, I'll be over there sooner than later, and I'll see what's going on. It was absolutely disgusting. I've never seen anything quite like it. When I opened the door, it was literally a waterfall of roaches. Like, I cannot express how many roaches there would be, and I'm not sure if, like, I had the door open for at least a minute, and there was a constant flow of roaches falling from the door frame or the ceiling or something. I don't know. I don't know how long it would have been that I would have left that door open before the roaches would have stopped falling. And we're not talking about like one or two roaches falling down. We're talking about like when I stuck my arm, when I opened the door opened inward. I stuck my arm in there. There's roaches, dozens of them bouncing off my arm. And just as long as I wanted to, I could have experienced that. Needless to say, I did not want to experience that. I left the door open to peek in there to see, you know, what all is going on in there for about a minute. And then I was just like, shoot, I have to close this door now. I have to get through these roaches again in order to close the door. That was absolutely disgusting. I hope I never experienced anything like, I mean, it was literally like the stuff of horror movies. And so, thankfully, my pest control guy was able to get in there and address most of the roaches. I sold the property to some clients of mine. Ian, if you're listening, shout out to you. But I sold the property, and they knew that there was a roach problem. But thankfully, it ended up, you know, once my pest control guy got in there, once, you know, all the furniture and carpet and whatnot was out of it, there was really nothing left for the roaches to do but to die. And so thankfully it was able to be remedied, and it's no longer the Roach Motel. Now it's a beautiful duplex that is serving a great function of providing affordable housing to the Greenville area. Third crazy home that I went into was one that was just a recent one for me, and I'm gonna call this one the Buzzard Nest. So this is a house on about an acre of land in a kind of a unique part of like South Greenville, and the full back of the house was like termite damaged and whatnot. It was basically falling off the house, and so this was a property that I was actually going to be listing, and so I wanted to, even though it was like more of a property that we were listing for the land value more than the house value, I still thought, there might be someone that's interested in trying to bring this house back to life. You never know. I've learned over my years dealing with real estate investors, there are people that believe that they can do just about anything. So I wasn't sure if we might get people interested in trying to revitalize that house, but I wanted to work my way around in it. And so, and familiarize myself with the house. And so I go inside and I'm just walking around, and all of a sudden I round a corner where towards the back of the house is falling off. And I come across 2 adolescent buzzards, and they look like they're about to charge me. Like, they start puffing up their feathers and they're hissing. And, I've never been around buzzards before. Not in that proximity. Usually they try to get away from you. But in this case, it appears that the parents had nested in this house, and that probably when they heard me coming in, the parents abandoned the babies, which were basically full size, but they were still kind of fuzzy. They still had some of their baby feathers on. So even though they were full-size buzzards, I could tell that they were adolescent. They probably hadn't learned how to fly yet or weren't very good at it. And those things were nasty. Like, I wasn't scared, but I also didn't know what they were going to do. Like, are they going to charge me? Are they going to try to peck out my eyes? I don't know. Buzzards are not normally inside of a house. And so it wasn't quite as frightening as, being in a shed alone with a dog. But needless to say, I did not mess around with those buzzards. I got out of the buzzard nest, and I let them be. I let them have their house back. The fourth crazy story that I want to share with you guys is the termite trailer. And it wasn't really a trailer, it was more like a house. But this was crazy. I had to call it a trailer, just, these all have kind of catchy names, and I couldn't really think of anything better. So the termite trailer it is. Really, it was just an old house. But it was so eaten by termites. So I walk in with some clients, and I had read going in that there were some rooms that were unsafe. And it was like, well, I've been in a lot of unsafe houses before, as you can tell from my stories. And so it's just like, okay, it can't be that bad. So we walk in, everything's looking pretty standard for an old house. We get to the back of it, and this house was on a tall crawl space. So it didn't have a basement, but it had, like a 5-foot crawl space, 5 foot high. The entire back of the house was so termite eaten that the floor had fallen down into the crawl space. You can literally just see from the hallway, you could just see straight down into the crawl space. It was absolutely insane. My client actually wanted to go into the crawl space, so we did. And, I was able to, even though I'm no termite inspector, I was able to see termite damage just pretty much anywhere that I looked. And I've seen plenty of dilapidated houses and whatnot, but that one was just crazy from the standpoint of just walking in and just being able to see straight down into the crawl space the way that we did. And that was the direct result of termite damage. That was pretty insane. Last but not least, I told you guys this would be a shorter episode. You guys are overdue for a shorter episode, given some of the longer ones that we've had lately. The final one I have on here is the Walking Dead Church. This is another one with Ian. Ian, we've had a few interesting experiences if you're listening. The Walking Dead Church. So there's this church that was listed a few years ago for really cheap. That was like, hey, I wonder if there's this opportunity here, like not for the church itself, like to try to revitalize this building and sell it to another church. But like, could we like retrofit this church into something else, apartments or a halfway house or something like that? And And so it was like, let's go check it out. So we go to the church, and from the outside, it was rough, obviously, but we were not fully prepared for the inside. The inside literally looked like a set from The Walking Dead. Everything was set up as if they were ready to have a church service right away. The pulpit up front had like glasses, not like glasses that you drink out of, but like glasses that you wear, like sitting on the pulpit. The Bible was open to a specific scripture. Like everything was set up as if like people just got up and left, like in the middle of a service. And then here's the other crazy thing, is that the walls of the church were splitting apart. Like literally they were falling in either direction. So the church was just completely collapsing, not in on itself, but outward. And these people had taken these metal lines and had connected them to either wall of the church, to both walls of the church, to hold up the walls. So in multiple places in the auditorium, there were these long poles basically going across that were bolted into the walls, holding up the walls of the church from collapsing. It was insane. We walked around. There were classrooms and whatnot. We tried to walk through some of these classrooms. It was dangerous. I was scared of snakes in there. We saw brown recluses and black widows everywhere in there. It was absolutely crazy. It literally, I'm telling you, it felt like walking through a set of The Walking Dead. It was terrifying. My client did not purchase that property, in case you're wondering. We just couldn't come up with any angle where it would make sense. Like it just needed to be demoed, and the land value wasn't, to me, a very good deal. If you're just looking at it from a land standpoint. But someone did end up buying it. I should probably look back and see what, if anything, they ended up doing with it. But I would like to hope that the Walking Dead church now looks presentable and looks like something, and isn't just this crazy property with walls that are about to collapse outwardly at any given time. So those are some of my crazy ones. I know that a lot of you, my listeners, have crazy stories as well, particularly if you're real estate investors. So I would really, really love to hear some of your stories as well. It would actually be fun at some point to kind of compile some stories from some of the listeners. So if you have anything like that, please let me know. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text. All of that, my contact information is in the show notes. Look at that transition. I really did that nicely. It's almost like I've been doing this podcast for 2.5 years. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe to it. If you're on Spotify, if you're on iTunes, Audio Boom, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, all of those platforms, please go ahead and subscribe to the show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a rating and a review, or any other app that has that option. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to know where my channel is, don't search Selling Greenville, because you might find it, but you might also find a channel that's called Selling Greenville that I didn't create. Search for my name, Stan, Stan, McCune, MCCUNE. You will find me that way, and I have a playlist for Selling Greenville podcast that I've been doing now for several months. Please subscribe to my channel. I've got some interesting plans for that channel. And it's not just going to be this podcast. I have some other ideas that I'm kicking around in my head. So I do think it'll be worthwhile for you guys to subscribe to that to see what I come up with in the future. We'll see. But I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you guys are healthy. I hope you guys stay safe. And we will talk again next time.